Our next speaker is another student from the STEM Academy. Karim Alazzam is currently a senior at STEM, and he holds a deep fascination for the world of business and its fundamental underpinning in our modern world. He is interested in communication and is always looking for more ways to effectively convey his ideas.
In his free time, he likes to play video games and hang out with his family. Karim plans to major in international business with a concentration in marketing and leadership. Today, in his talk titled The Global Village Mentality, Karim will be talking about how he acquired his appreciation for experiencing other cultures and the lessons he has learned along the way.
Please welcome Karim Alazzam to the stage.
Thank you, Sashma, for that introduction. So I want to start off with asking the question, how many of us have ever traveled? Let me see a show of hands. All right, perfect, most of us. So being able to travel is a wonderful experience. You get to interact with different communities, people, cultures, get to eat amazing food. I think the biggest drawback to traveling, if you're not a linguist, is trying to converse or talk to Uber or taxi drivers. If they don't speak English, then you can't speak their language. And I've had my fair share of hairy experiences. I remember one time in Spain, we were in Madrid, and we were coming back to the airport about 1:30 p.m. And this guy is already driving about 20, 30 kilometers above the speed limit. And already, we're going to the airport, so there's already a high presence of police officers. And I try to tell this guy that we're not in a rush. So I don't speak good Spanish, so I try to speak as best as I can, doesn't understand it, no problem. I try to tell this guy, I try to point at the speedometer, tell him to kind of slow down, mime, and he ended up going faster. So now this guy's going 40, 50 kilometers above the speed limit, and the only thing I'm scared about is if we get stopped by a police officer. Maybe I'll get a ticket, I don't know what happens. And we end up getting stopped by a police officer. And this guy blames me that I told him to go faster. And I didn't say anything of that sort. And I highlight that because of the most common form of communication barrier, which is the language barrier. We have about 6,500 different languages in the world. 1,500 of them have less than 1,000 speakers. So that leaves us at 4,000 very commonly spoken languages. So we need to take it upon ourselves to at least learn a little bit about another language, or especially if we're traveling. And I have a considerably diverse background. I was born in Puerto Rico, and I moved when I was about 4 or 5 to the States. And so the first language and the first phrases that came around me were Spanish. I was pretty good at Spanish. When we moved to the States, I ended up losing that Spanish, and luckily I've been able to use school education to learn back that Spanish pretty quickly. My father's from Jordan and my mother's from Turkey. So at home, we'd speak a lot of Arabic and Turkish, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But I wasn't always like that. When I was younger, until now, my parents urged me to go back to the Middle East, experience that different culture, experience the different people, the languages, go back to family and friends. And I didn't like that at all. And there were many reasons for that. One reason being the weather. It was 105, 106 degrees on the daily. My blessing for the day is when I open the weather app and I see that it's like 98 degrees. And that was my cold for the day. The villages, our village specifically, was south of Irbid, which is a city in Jordan, a bigger city in Jordan. And there were tubs of water on the houses. Houses are built with cement, usually by the homeowner's hands, his or her hands, not by any fancy architecture or building team. So those water tubs, I can't take my 30-minute showers. Those tubs supply water to the whole house. So you have to be very cautious and weary of taking long showers and flushing the toilet a million times and keeping the water on while you're brushing your teeth, all those different small things we know about. And not only that, language too. I wasn't really good at Arabic when I was younger, 10 or 11 years old. So communicating with friends and family and cousins, especially in gatherings when we were sitting there, it was really tough to say anything, so I was kind of useless. Even when I tried to say anything, it was funnier. It was funny. I mean, my dad would call me on a question, or uncle would ask me a question, and I'd try to answer, and it ended up, we all laughed. And I remember a big time highlighting another barrier of communication, which is the cultural barrier of communication. So we just arrived in Jordan. 1 or 2 days after, I went to go get a SIM card for my phone. And my phone's unlocked, carrier unlocked it, so I can use data in different countries. And shops in Jordan are very close to each other. Barber, grocery shop, all supermarket, all of them are nearby. So due to the economic situation, you wouldn't need a car to go to those type of places. You could just walk 5 minutes. So I'm on my way, and I'm walking over there, and my mom tells me to get groceries on the way. And I'm holding these groceries in my right hand, and that's going to be really important a little bit later on in the story. When I arrive to the mobile phone shop, we start discussing how much data do I need, what SIM card do I have, micro SD, SD, what carrier, and ends up asking me where I'm from. He realizes I'm not from Jordan due to my Arabic. And after all is said and done, and I paid, everything's good to go, I pick up that grocery bag in my right hand, and I try to shake this gentleman's hand with my left hand. And if you didn't know, in the Middle East, everything is done with your right hand, everything. I mean, you eat, you greet, you wave, you do everything, open doors, everything. So this guy has his right hand out, and I have my left hand out, and you can imagine how that looks. Like, you can take your right hand out right now, your left hand, and try to shake them, it just doesn't work. It gets really awkward. So I try to shake this gentleman's hand, and I am left with an uncomfortable taste in my mouth. There's just bitter taste in my mouth. Very awkward. So I come back, and I go home, and I'm thinking, why did this guy, put his right hand out and didn't take it away? He didn't want to put his left hand out. And I come home, and I didn't know any better. I'm 10, 11 years old, and I ask my dad, and he tells me, like I just said, that everything is done with your right hand in the Middle East, and in other countries as well, other regions as well. You like I said, you shake, you greet, you do everything with your right hand, and that's why he didn't use his left hand. And that highlights, like I said, that cultural barrier of communication. Just because I didn't use my right hand, it created a sense of awkwardness and uncomfortableness between me and the SIM card, or the mobile phone owner. And that's not the only example I have. Here in the United States and many other countries, when you speak to someone, you want to make eye contact with them. So you're talking and you want to make eye contact. In other countries, I know in the Middle East and in Asia, if you make eye contact with someone, you're looked at as disrespectful. So, whatever the occurrence is, you're speaking to friends or family, you want to, look around or not look in their eyes at least. Another example I have of the cultural barrier, a teacher told me this story here, where she was in a very large business meeting. She was shadowing a sales consultant in another country, in China specifically. And when everything's said, and these guys are from China, like I said, and they give her the business card, a business card. And when you're given a business card here, the instinct is to just tuck it away or put it in your wallet, anything of that sort. And so that's what she did. She put that business card in her wallet, and these guys are extremely furious now. They're about to get up and leave multi-million-dollar deal, and they're about to leave because of that business card. And she ended up realizing, and when she told me this story, it was really interesting, where in Asia, in China also specifically, the business card is looked at, you have to treat the business card very elegantly. You don't just tuck it away. You have to think of it as its own entity. When you have papers on your desk, you keep it on the desk, keep it on the side, and it's just a very important piece of the culture in Asia. Another example I have for the language barrier of communication is, again, when I'm in Spain. I went to Spain this last summer. And so we just finished a trip in Granada, a very big city in Spain, looking at the famous historical architecture, the Arab architecture before the Conquista. And we stop at this restaurant. And like I said, we don't know much Spanish, so we try to do the point and smile technique. We point anything on the menu, and whatever sounds good, we'll choose it. So we end up getting our food, and this waiter didn't ask us for a drink. It's all right. And we didn't ask her anything. She remembers, and she comes over, and she talks about, she forgot, and then no problem. So we try to order drinks. Everybody orders water, pretty easy. And I want to order fruit punch. I love fruit punch. So I don't know fruit punch, and I try to use all my European dialect, any language I know, to say fruit punch. Say it in English, say it in Turkish, say it in French. Nothing gets across. All right, that's fine. So I try to do that miming technique. I try to, do this, and I want to drink, and she gets that, and now what type of drink do I want? Cool. So I want fruit punch, and so I have this pamphlet that we had in the Granada trip, and it's red. And I'm like, all right, this is perfect. Fruit punch is red, and she knows I want to drink. So I pull this pamphlet out, and I keep pointing at it, and I, kind of mime again that drinking. And she bursts in awe, like headlights, like light bulb, perfect. She knows I want fruit punch. That's what I think. All right, so she goes back, takes 5-10 minutes. She comes back with a bowl of tomato juice. It is red, and it is a drink. So I wasn't surprised, but I didn't drink any of that. So we were kept at that point, another point, that language barrier of communication. And there are so many cultures and communities, like I said, in the world, so many different languages, so many different people, food, and we're lucky to be in this country where it's considered the melting pot, where we have so many of those cultures and so many of those communities we can interact with, whether that be down the street, and whether that be, a neighborhood down, whatever it be. So I don't think it's an excuse that we can take it upon ourselves to say that we can't learn the language or we can't interact with a different community, because we have so many different people here, even in the audience, where you can turn around and even talk about the cultures and communities that they have back home. We come from so many different places. So we need to take it upon ourselves to learn about those cultures and communities, especially in the country we live in. And let's say you try to pull that excuse that you don't know anybody, that it comes from a different community. We are in the perfect age of technology, where we can quick Google search on Middle Eastern culture, Middle Eastern norms, Indian culture, Indian norms, Chinese culture, Chinese norms, so many different communities, and there's going to be lists. I should have done that before I went to Jordan, and I could have known that I should have shaken with my right hand. So, like I said, on top of that language, Google Translate, Rosetta Stone, people, you can learn. There are schools around here, this school, and there are schools just for language that we can go out and we can learn languages, and on top of cultures. So, that's, I think, the takeaway we should have from my discussion here, to go out and learn about different communities, learn about different languages, and if we do, and when we do, we will become better global-minded citizens. We'll become in that global village mentality, like I have the title behind me, because we have so many different communities around in our world. And if we do, we'll be deemed more successful human beings in life, whether that be in business, family relationships, personal friends, any of that. If we learn about different people, we'll be able to communicate with them so much more efficiently and not have those awkward tensions and sensations with people. Thank you.